Hello and welcome back to the Online Marketing Show, where you can find out all about how to grow your online presence using digital and online marketing. If you're watching this, you might be a little bit confused as to what the Online Marketing Show is. And if you're listening to this, then that statement might have just confused you as well. But if you didn't know, I actually have two main forms of content that I create. One of which is my YouTube channel, which if you're watching it, hello, nice to see you. And the other being a podcast that I create, oftentimes repurposing some of the videos that are out on my YouTube channel. But today I've actually taken a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of a learning lesson from a favourite creator of mine, Latasha James, who creates the Freelance Friday podcast. And she's actually recently launched her new series of the podcast through YouTube, as well as all of the usual podcast distribution methods, I guess is the best way to describe that. And I was really inspired and was like, why on earth have I not done this before? I've turned videos into podcasts, but I've never actually sat down and filmed something with the intent of it being dual purpose. So today's video is going to be something that I'm doing more often. I am going to try and record these podcast sessions as a bit of an additional extra to the YouTube videos that I put out ordinarily, and to generate some more content for the podcast. So whichever way you watch and whichever way you interact, thank you and hello. And now to get into the interesting bit, the nitty gritty of today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how to turn your followers and your social media fans into customers and how to convert them. This is a real big pain point for a lot of businesses that use digital marketing or social media, where they create a audience. They've been working really hard with engaging, creative, wonderful content, but they're not really noticing anything other than an increase in some of the vanity metrics. So things like the amount of followers that you have or the amount of likes that you get. But when it comes down to growing your business, you need to make sure that you're making sales. Now, that's where I come in with a lot of my clients. This is a topic that I do a lot of consultancy and strategy work on. So I actually recently spoke at an event where I spoke about this actual topic. So I'm going to pull up some of the notes and questions from that event so that I can go through everything. So first off, I obviously, if you don't know, run a digital marketing agency called Red Digital and Events. And things have been going brilliantly, but as a bit of an aside, as a reason why I'm mentioning this, one of the biggest issues that all of our clients have faced, even clients that we've worked with on their social media, has been how to get your followers and your fans to convert. And if you're not a creative person, or if you're just a business owner that knows you should be on social media but doesn't know why, you can quite often see that issue and ask, what's the ROI? What's the benefit for my business? Because this is a pain point for a lot of people who do well on social media. And it's a good point and it's a good question. And it's something that I think a lot of social media experts and gurus out there don't really address. First of all, I want you to remember this phrase, and this is something that I was told, and I've heard a million times, but that I was told initially when I was first learning about marketing, and it's always stuck with me. Content without strategy is just stuff. And depending on who you've heard this from, they might end with something a little bit ruder or something along the lines of, and no one gives a shit about stuff. And it's true. Realistically, a lot of the stuff that is put out into the universe on social media through digital means is just stuff and is only benefiting the person sending it out. and they're doing it because they want to tell you about something. They want you to know what they're doing. But does that mean that you care? Does that mean that you're interested? Maybe not. So this is something that I always say. If you're struggling to get any conversions through your social media, you need to reflect on whether you have a strategy or whether you're just posting content because you know you should. But basically, content without strategy is just stuff. So how do you make sure that everything you do has a strategy behind it? That's a good question. And one of the first things that I recommend you do is you go through your analytics on social media and you find out who your current audiences are. Who's on your page regularly? Are they someone that would potentially be a customer? And then the next step is to actually outline that ideal customer type. Are your ideal customers able to be broken down by a certain gender or age group or even a location? Because all of this information is accessible through your social media analytics. And from there, you can kind of pick up any discrepancies and realize that maybe it's as simple as you're not reaching the audience you should be. So if you're trying to target men, maybe some of the imagery that you've been using has a little bit too much of a feminine connotation to it, and you need to rebrand some of those elements and rediscover some new ideas. Job done, maybe that's the missing link. But a lot of the time it's just that the content that you're putting out is repetitive, number one, or it doesn't share your message properly. So many businesses fall into the trap of buy this, come and visit us today, sign up now, but without any of the further information that you need to make that decision. So the details of your products, the message and history of your business, and some of the other elements that come into pulling someone through a sales funnel, or some of the other elements that come into getting someone to trust you enough to make a purchasing decision. Think of it this way, you don't really pick up the phone for a cold call and expect someone to say, yes, take my money. It's a longer process than that. A lot of the time, cold calls are an invitation to a warmer call with a Zoom or like a video element alongside it, or just an invitation to a meeting to get to know one another better. It's the same with social media. You don't just dive straight in with buy this. You kind of need to dip your toes first and let people ease into who you are and what you do. And on the other end of the spectrum, I've worked with people who are not naturally salespeople and they don't want to be pushy with sales content, but it almost means that you don't end up selling at all. So people don't know what they can buy for you. They don't know what you're offering, and your message is blurred. So if you're struggling with converting on social media, that is a really important thing, to make sure that your message is there. And a lot of the time, by just doing that alone and not even fixing any of the other problems, you can quite quickly see your conversion rates go from, a 0 to maybe a 1%. But that 1% is still better than it was before. To help with this kind of message system, I really am an advocate for using a spreadsheet of some form, a schedule template before you even make it onto the platform. So rather than just writing on Facebook what you want to go out on Facebook and hitting post, you prepare it in a Excel or a Google Sheets, and from there you can kind of take a more overall view of what your message is and is it communicated properly. And along with the exercise that I mentioned earlier of outlining your ideal audience, keep them in mind when you're creating your content. If you are able to outline exactly who it is that would be your customer, make sure that you're talking directly to them rather than talking generally as a catch-all, hoping that someone will come through. Having a much more targeted approach will most likely see that your conversions increase. And now, this is one that I always used to get really negative comments for. People used to be like, well, that doesn't work for me, or that's not feasible. But more and more people are coming around to the idea, and that is to create a funnel. Getting people to convert is a really difficult task. There is averagely only a 1% conversion rate when it comes to online sales. So it's one of those things. It does take a little bit of time. It is difficult to get people on board, but by putting someone through a funnel, you are more likely to be able to do that. And from a personal perspective, most of the businesses that I work with, they have some kind of sales strategy, some kind of sales funnel, but it's very manual. It's like you find someone who's never heard of you before and approach them, you arrange phone calls, you arrange drop-ins, you arrange meetings, and you kind of manually go and grab them and pull them along this funnel until they get to point B where they're ready to purchase, where they've made that decision and they're ready to spend money with you. And by creating a funnel through email automation and through some of these other options using landing pages and lead generations, you have the ability to actually not need to manually pull someone at all, but to let somebody find you and put their email address in at the top of the funnel themselves and be taken on a journey that you've custom built once and slowly but surely get pulled along until they reach that decision-making point. And again, that's not going to mean that everybody that goes into your funnel makes a purchase, but it does help. It does mean that they get more access to you and that these touch points are coming from lots of different directions. So they're picking you up on social media. Maybe if it's a local business, they're seeing you on the street. They're getting emails from you. Maybe they're even getting retargeted ads from you. And all of a sudden, all those separate touch points add up to, okay, I'm going to buy, or I'm ready now to make that purchase. And that's kind of the secret. That's the thing that will take you over the edge. And another reason why funnels are so important are because of the nature of social media. As somebody who loves and adores what you can do and create with social media, I do feel that a lot of businesses rely solely on social and let their SEO and their other platforms and their email lists and all the data that they collect kind of fall by the wayside, when really it should be the other way around. Social media are ultimately platforms that are created by somebody else. Even YouTube is created by somebody else. So if for some reason I was accused of a copyright issue and my YouTube account was disabled, do I want to lose everyone that's watched my videos? It's the same with social media. You don't want there to be a group of people that you've worked really hard to build up and then all of a sudden they're no longer interested in what you do because you're not on that platform anymore. So instead, by building funnels and taking people's details, you're able to kind of have a relationship with them that is your own. You're contacting them directly from your email address to theirs. Yes, you're using whatever platform you choose to do that, but by building that relationship, you've got the option that if Facebook disappears, you can send out an email to all of the people that you've built up and let them know that, okay, I'm actually going to be on this new platform now. And this has become especially poignant with the threats of TikTok being deleted. You think of these influencers, these teenagers that have worked to build audiences of millions, and whether you consider dancing on TikTok working or not, that is irrelevant. They have built these audiences themselves and now they have the threat of losing them. And I know that seems very doomsday and it seems unrealistic, but the possibility of your Facebook account being deleted, or whichever platform you use, your Instagram account being deleted, is not that far-fetched. It happens. People's accounts get disabled because of reports, and sometimes they could even be false reports that you're not following community guidelines, or that Facebook perceives that you're not following community guidelines. So you do need to make sure that you're prepared, that if something like that were to happen, you wouldn't now be left with no way to gather leads. I've mentioned building an email funnel, that is something that I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel, so I will post a link below, whether in the show notes or the description, depending on how you're watching. And that'll kind of take you through step by step how to build out your funnel in a way that works for you. I personally use a platform called MailerLite, and I'll say, like, frankly, that is my main source of leads. People will stumble upon me on YouTube and maybe I'll get a message or two, but I do get a lot more responses from what I'm doing on email than I ever do on social media. But other than that, I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you found it useful at all, please give this a thumbs up, because it really does help kind of take the video further and help some other people who may need some advice see it. Other than that, please don't forget to subscribe. I will be back next week, probably with a kind of week in the life of my business, which is something that I haven't shown you as of yet. You've had a sneak peek into a day, and it was a rather dull day during lockdown, where I just sat at a computer. So you're going to be able to see a little bit more about the meetings that I've got going on, and kind of a realistic, more normal day. Are we at that point yet? Are we at normal yet? Or is this still what everyone was calling the new normal? But thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget, I upload new videos every Saturday. Thanks a lot. Bye.